I, 32M, have spent the last decade being the reliable one. While my brother, 28M, was busy finding himself through failed business ventures funded by my parents and multiple stints in rehab, I was the one showing up every weekend to mow their lawn, fix their gutters, and manage my father's medication. I'm a senior project manager. I'm disciplined, I'm stable, and apparently, I was the world's biggest fool. My father passed away 6 months ago, and my mother followed him just 8 weeks later. I paid for the funeral because my brother couldn't access his funds. When I finally sat down with the family attorney, I expected a 50-50 split. That's what they always told me. "We love you both the same," they'd say, usually while I was writing a check to cover my brother's overdue rent. The attorney wouldn't look me in the eye. He slid a folder across the desk. Everything, the 4-bedroom family home, the brokerage accounts, the vintage Mustang, and the life insurance was left entirely to my brother. A specific clause added 14 months ago stated that because I was financially secure and my brother required support to achieve stability, he was the sole beneficiary. I was left my father's old toolbox with the rusted hinges. I went to the family home, where my brother was already drinking my father's expensive scotch. He didn't even look up. "I'm changing the locks tomorrow," he smirked. "New beginnings. I might let you stay in the guest room if you fall on hard times." I handed him the key without a word. I didn't tell him that I'd been paying the property taxes for 3 years because my parents were short on cash. And I certainly didn't tell him about the document I'd found in the attic 3 weeks prior. The entitlement started immediately. Within 48 hours, he sent me a notice to quit via an online legal service, ordering me to remove my stuff in 72 hours. He even sent an invoice for the scotch I drank during the funeral week. He was already talking to agents about selling the house for $800,000 cash and posting photos with the Mustang, captioned, "Hard work pays off." I spent that night with a shark of a lawyer. See, my parents were clever but not geniuses. To avoid creditors years ago, they put the house into a complex structure. They thought the will overrode everything. It didn't. I waited until my brother threw his first mansion party. He didn't invite me, but I showed up. "You're trespassing," he yelled in front of his friends. "Actually," I said, "I'm not. But you are." I pulled out a certified copy of the deed. 10 years ago, fearing my brother's creditors, my parents signed a transfer on death, TOD, deed to me. They tried to move the house into a trust last year to give it to him, but they botched the filing. In our state, a TOD deed supersedes a will and bypasses probate. "I've owned this house since the moment Mom's heart stopped," I told the silent room. "Everyone out. Now." My brother was evicted by a sheriff's deputy that night, crying that he had no money because he'd already spent his savings on the party and a deposit for a Porsche. But the real revenge was just starting. As executor, I had to settle the estate's debts. My brother thought he was getting $600,000 in cash and cars. What he didn't realize was that my father lived way beyond his means. He'd taken a massive helic to fund my brother's failed artisanal water business. Since the house was mine via the deed, that debt stayed with the estate, meaning it stayed with the beneficiary. My brother played dirty. He glued my lock shut and hid raw fish in the air vents and floorboards to devalue the house. I filed a felony vandalism report and sent the $22,000 biohazard cleaning bill to the estate attorney to be deducted from my brother's inheritance. Then came the deposition for the lawsuit he filed to contest the deed. He claimed I pressured our parents. I produced a flight itinerary proving I was in Chicago the day they signed it. Then I dropped the hammer. "The life insurance? Mom took a loan against it for your DUI defense. The brokerage? Collateral for your defaulted business loans. Total estate value, $16,000. Debt to me for funeral costs and vandalism repairs, $40,000. The estate is insolvent, bro. You owe me." The final act of entitlement happened a week later. I found the Mustang blocking my driveway. My brother was hopping down, waving an envelope of cash. "I sold the car under the table," he bragged. "I've got 20 grand and I'm hitting Vegas. You'll never see a dime." I didn't call the cops. I called an investigator. He just confessed to a private sale of an asset under a recorded lien. I said into the phone. I'd put a lien on that car the moment the estate came up short. I also had my father's old ledger from the toolbox. It proved my brother had forged checks while my dad was in the ICU. The sirens arrived in minutes. He tried to run, tripped, and spilled the cash everywhere. He was arrested for felony conversion and theft from a vulnerable adult. Because he stole from our dying father, the charges were massive. He got a prison sentence and a restitution order. Every cent he makes for years will be garnished to pay me back. After he was locked up, I went back to that rusted toolbox. I found a hidden compartment with a letter from my dad. He knew the brother would blow the inheritance, so he hid a key to a safe deposit box containing $150,000 in gold coins and bonds just for me. He told me to let my brother learn the hard way. I sold the house, moved to the coast, and blocked my brother's jailhouse calls asking for commissary money. He wanted everything, so he ended up with a jumpsuit and a debt he can never pay off. If you enjoyed seeing a golden child discover that his inheritance was actually just a mountain of his own bad decisions, subscribe. Unlike my brother's Porsche, this story actually has a finish line.